The Light That Never Fades, a story of happiness chosen. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, Ohio, a place where cornfields stretched golden under wide skies and the river bent slow and steady like an old friend's arm, lived a woman named Margaret Thompson. Everyone called her Maggie. At 50 years old, she had silver threads weaving through her chestnut hair, laugh lines that framed warm hazel eyes, and a smile that seemed to arrive before she did. Maggie lived in a modest two-story house on Elm Street, the same one she and her late husband Daniel had bought in 1998 when their daughter Emily was just a toddler and their son Jack was still a dream on the horizon. The porch swing still creaked the way it did when Daniel used to sit there strumming his old guitar. The garden out back still bloomed with the same heirloom tomatoes and sunflowers she planted every spring. And Maggie herself was still the person everyone turned to when life felt heavy. The people of Willow Creek loved her. She was the one who organized the library's summer reading program, baked pies for the church auction, sat with new widows over coffee, and listened, really listened, when teenagers thought no one understood. No matter the day, Maggie's door was open, her kettle was on, and her presence felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. One crisp October afternoon, when the leaves were turning the color of fire, a 22-year-old named Ethan Harper knocked on her door. Ethan had grown up in Willow Creek, played football at the high school, worked now at the auto parts store on Main Street, and lately carried a shadow in his eyes that hadn't been there before. His girlfriend had left for Columbus to chase a job and a new life. His father was sick again, rent was due. The world felt like it was pressing down. Maggie welcomed him in with her usual warmth. "Ethan, honey, come sit. Coffee or tea? I just pulled oatmeal cookies from the oven." He chose coffee and sat at the worn oak table that had hosted 1,000 conversations. After a few minutes of small talk about the weather and the upcoming harvest festival, he finally asked the question that had been burning in him for months. "Maggie, why are you always happy? I mean, really, no matter what happens, the storms, the losses, people moving away, money troubles, you never seem sad. You don't complain. You just shine. Don't you ever feel bad when things go wrong?" Maggie set her mug down and looked at him with gentle eyes. She didn't rush to answer. She let the quiet settle, the way she always did when something important was being said. Then she smiled, soft, knowing. "Happiness isn't the absence of trouble, Ethan. It's a choice I make every single day. It comes from inside, not from what's happening around me." Ethan frowned, leaning forward. "But how? I see people lose jobs, get divorced, get sick, and they fall apart. You lost Daniel. You raised 2 kids mostly alone after that. How can you be happy when bad things happen?" Maggie took a slow breath. "Let me tell you my story. Not the short version I give at potlucks, but the real one. Maybe it'll help." She began. "When I was 32, life felt perfect in the way only young people think it can. Daniel and I had been married 10 years. Emily was 8, full of questions and energy. Jack was 5, always trailing after his big sister with a toy truck. We weren't rich. Daniel worked at the mill. I taught 3rd grade at the elementary school. But we were happy. We had picnics by the river, movie nights with popcorn on the couch, dreams of taking the kids to see the ocean someday. Then Daniel got sick. It started with a cough he couldn't shake. We thought it was just the dust from the mill. Then came the fatigue, the weight loss. The doctor in Dayton finally said the word none of us wanted to hear. Cancer. Pancreatic. Advanced. We tried everything. Chemo, experimental treatments, prayers, second opinions. I took leave from teaching. Emily and Jack stayed with my sister in Dayton some weeks so I could be at the hospital. We drained our savings. Friends brought casseroles. The church held fundraisers. But the cancer was faster than all of us. Daniel died on a Tuesday in March. He was 43. I was 34. The kids were 9 and 6. The day of the funeral, I stood at the graveside holding their small hands and felt like the ground had opened under me. I cried until there was nothing left. That night, after everyone left and the house was too quiet, I sat on this very porch swing and screamed into the dark. I thought happiness had died with him. I thought I'd never laugh again, never feel light again. For months, I moved through life like a ghost. I got the kids to school, cooked meals, graded papers when I went back to work, but inside, I was hollow. Grief wasn't just sadness, it was a weight that made every breath hurt. Then one morning, maybe 6 months after the funeral, I woke up early, before the kids. The sun was just rising, painting the kitchen gold. I looked out the window and saw a cardinal at the feeder Daniel had hung years before, bright red against the snow. And for the first time since he died, I felt something besides pain. Not joy yet, but curiosity. Why was that bird here? Why did its color feel like a gift? That tiny moment cracked something open. I realized being sad forever wouldn't bring Daniel back. It wouldn't help Emily with her spelling tests or Jack when he skinned his knee. They needed a mother who could still see the world, even if it was blurry with tears. So I decided, not all at once, but little by little, to change how I looked at life. Every morning before my feet hit the floor, I say 3 things I'm grateful for. Some days it's big, my children's health, a roof over our heads, good friends. Other days it's small, hot coffee, the way the light falls on the quilt Daniel's mother made, the sound of birds. Even on the hardest days, anniversaries, empty holidays, when the bills pile up, I find something. I also remind myself of a simple truth. This too shall pass. Everything does. The good moments fade, but so do the bad. Pain isn't permanent. Joy isn't either, but you can choose which one you water. When bad things happen now, and they still do, I let myself feel them. I cry, I get angry, I call a friend, but I don't let the darkness move in permanently. I focus on what remains: my health, my kids who are grown now and call me every week, the garden that still grows, the students who remember my class with fondness, the fact that I'm still here, breathing, able to love. Happiness isn't pretending everything's fine. It's choosing to see the light even when shadows are long. Ethan sat silent for a long minute. His coffee had gone cold. But what if something really terrible happens again? How do you keep going? Maggie reached across the table and touched his hand lightly. It's not easy, Ethan. Some days I still miss Daniel so much it steals my breath. Some days the news is heavy, or a friend gets bad test results, or the car breaks down.
Money's tight. I feel it all. But I remind myself, I survived the worst day of my life. I rebuilt. I can do it again if I have to. And until then, I choose gratitude over despair. I choose to look for the cardinal in the snow. You can too. Ethan left her house that afternoon with her words echoing. He didn't change overnight, but he started trying. The next morning he woke up and, feeling silly at first, listed 3 things: the smell of rain on the pavement, his mother's voice when she called, the paycheck waiting at work. It felt forced, but he kept going. When his boss chewed him out, he thought, this too shall pass. When he missed his ex, he remembered, there are still people who care. When his dad had another bad day at the doctor's, Ethan sat with him, held his hand, and later went home and wrote down one good thing. Dad's still here to talk to. Weeks turned to months. Ethan started smiling more at the store. He helped an older customer carry bags to her car without being asked. He called his mom just to say hello. People noticed. His coworkers teased him. What's gotten into Harper? But they liked it. He went back to Maggie's house one Sunday with a small bouquet of sunflowers from the farmer's market. I wanted to thank you, he said. I'm not always happy yet, but I'm trying, and it's changing things. Maggie hugged him. That's all it takes, honey. Trying. Word of their conversations spread quietly through Willow Creek, the way good things do in small towns. People started dropping by Maggie's more often, not just for advice on leaky roofs or recipe tweaks, but for the way she made them feel possible again. A young mother whose husband lost his job came and left with a plan and a smile. An elderly man grieving his wife sat on the porch swing and found he could talk about her without drowning. Teenagers who felt invisible at school heard Maggie say, "You matter exactly as you are," and believed it a little more. Maggie didn't preach, she lived it, and in living it, she taught. By the next autumn, Willow Creek felt subtly different. The Harvest Festival had more laughter. Neighbors checked on each other without being asked. People shared what they were grateful for at potlucks, not in a forced way, but naturally. Maggie turned 51 that year. Her children came home, Emily from Chicago, Jack from Cincinnati, and they threw a quiet party in the backyard. String lights, music from Daniel's old playlist, pie. As the evening wound down, Emily pulled her mother aside. "Mom, you know everyone's talking about you, not in a gossipy way. They say you've changed the town, that you're magic or something." Maggie laughed. "No magic, just stubbornness and coffee, lots of coffee." But later, alone on the porch swing with a blanket over her lap, Maggie looked at the stars and thought about Daniel. She still missed him every day, but the missing had softened into something warm, like an old photograph you keep in your wallet. She whispered to the night, "Thank you for the hard days. They taught me how to choose the light." And somewhere in Willow Creek, a young man named Ethan was doing the same, waking up, finding 3 things, reminding himself that everything passes, and choosing happiness anyway. The town was happier not because life got easier, but because one woman at 50 decided happiness was worth fighting for and showed everyone else how to do it too.